First of all, culture has to be in alignment with your business strategy because that's what defines you. Like, say, if we are really focused on growth, then my culture has to be a culture which rewards agility. Performance is not a one time conversation, has been my philosophy all along. And employee experience is also a evolving space. It keeps changing. I mean, taking an example from Digi Yatra, one of my employee commented that why can't my attendance be like Digi Yatra? You just look at my face as I enter into the office and my attendance
Yeah.
is done for the day. Why should I go do any click anywhere? So for us as HR function in the organization, I think three things that I am really looking at as a real key drivers from an HR perspective. One is clearly culture, as I see. Number two is performance. Third thing that I see is engagement.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of our special interview series, HR Revolution Perspectives 2023 Experts Take, presented by People Matters in association with Darwin Box. I'm your host, Pallavi. Through this exclusive series, we delve into several conversations with top CHROs and thinking minds from the people and work landscape across Asia. The series builds on insights from the HR Revolution Perspectives 2023 Empower and Evolve research study, which is one of the largest workplace transformation studies in Asia. The report paints an in-depth picture of what companies and employees demand today through responses gathered from over 2,000 HR practitioners and 1,200 plus employees. For today's interaction, I'm happy to invite Anjali Raghuvanshi, Chief People Officer at Randstad India, a strong believer in people and that they are the most important element for success in any organization and industry. Anjali has been instrumental in facilitating transformation journeys at the business and organization level. Anjali is also passionate about societal and environmental causes and is currently building a robust social responsibility framework at Randstad India. She associates with campuses and B schools in shaping the young minds and building talent for tomorrow. Welcome, Anjali.
Thank you so much, Pallavi.
Also joining us today for this episode is Anish Behel, Director of Value Engineering, Darwin Box. Anish has over 18 plus years of experience across consulting and corporate HR roles. He has delivered and managed engagements in the areas of HR effectiveness and transformation, talent management, leadership development, to name a few. Anish has also worked with diverse clients in India, Southeast Asia, Dubai, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, and much more across different industries. Thank you so much, Anish, for your time and for agreeing to be part of this series and sharing your learnings with us.
Thank you, Pallavi, for having me for this conversation.
Well, as I now hand over the mic to you, it would be wonderful if you can give our viewers a little glimpse of what this HR Evolution Perspectives 2023 Empower and Evolve research study reflects as you get into a conversation with Anjali. So I'll hand over it to you, Anish.
Thank you, Pallavi. Uh, Looking forward to the conversation today. And Anjali, it's a pleasure to have you and really appreciate you making time for this conversation. To give you and our viewers a brief context to the study, the HR Perspectives 2023 in its first edition is one of the largest studies of its kind in Asia and a huge undertaking by Darwin Box and People Matters. For us, it's really important to continue our listening in the market, especially when organizations are experiencing a change and lightning pace of work, right post COVID, clubbed with uncertainty around recession sentiments, AI, geopolitics, all of this impacting work. And for Asia, which is emerging as one of the most dynamic of the world regions in 2023, where organizations continue to experience rapid growth, have talent constraints, and where technology is acting as a big catalyst to scale programs and drive productivity and talent management. And through this study, we were keen to understand really how the narrative for the HR transformation is changing in this market, and especially how is HR responding to business needs and delivering on employee experience, and the role that technology is playing in this transformation journey. As part of the study, we gathered responses from over 1,200 respondents across organization, and we also spoke with business leaders and employees. And through this conversation, Anjali, we are building on this research, and as the name suggests, continue to get perspectives from leaders like you on how you are navigating through the change within your organizations. And once again, thank you for taking time for this conversation. Uh, to open up this conversation, Anjali, if one looks at the leadership in organizations, CXOs, and we surveyed nearly around 350 plus CXOs. A majority of them estimated an increase on all business growth parameters, whether it's revenue, whether it's profitability, and multiple strategies to drive this growth, organic, inorganic. Also, investments in ESG are continuing to rise. More than 80% of the CXOs surveyed noted improvement in key indicators such as profitability, revenue growth. And also, interestingly, what we noted was that a large percentage of CXOs indicated a decrease in headcount. Now, this necessarily did not mean that organizations are planning to lay off employees. But what this meant was that CXOs are taking a more measured approach to improving productivity. Now, with this business growth trends, Anjali, we would want to really understand your views. How is Randstad experiencing it, and what are some of the changing drivers for HR emerging at Randstad?
Thank you so much, Anish, first of all, for sharing the findings of the report and for this interesting conversation as we begin. I think from our perspective as an organization, I do agree that a lot of focus is there in terms of both profitability and revenue generation at most organizations, and Randstad is no different than others in that aspect. What I see as key growth drivers for us, specifically given our industry and given the kind of challenges, you said that there's going to be a very cautious, approach towards hiring people, which we something that we've experienced in whole of this 2023, where people have been after 2022 and 2021, people have been very careful in terms of how they build their organizations and what skills are they bringing in, etc. So I think I see that sort of continuing as an industry, and because we hire people for so many of our clients, that's an observation we've also had. At the same time, we do see a huge amount of expansion in different areas as well by businesses who are looking to grow. So for us as HR function in the organization, I think three things that I am really looking at as a real key drivers from an HR perspective. One is clearly culture. And while culture is something that's always very difficult for organizations to measure and really understand, whether it is how it's moving and how it's really behaving, but it is a very, very key driver in terms of really driving profitability and revenue generation. Because if your culture is not kind of pointed towards high performance and high growth, then you really can't drive those behaviors in your people. And when I say culture, culture is something that is showcased at all levels, not necessarily only the leadership and only a certain processes or functions, but people at all levels must be having that. So how does leadership drive that culture in the organization is going to be very key. So if my at Randstad also, our focus is to boost for growth. And when we look at boost for growth, then ideally I should have the right definition of culture in the organization to drive that. So that's number one, as I see. Number two is performance. I know that there was an era when people used to really speak a lot about performance management, but somewhere in between, as COVID hit, many other aspects were discussed, but somewhere performance, while a key aspect for businesses, I think from an HR function perspective, we were so much focused on other aspects like well-being and many things that we were driving because our world around us was changing. Flexibility became a key aspects that we were discussing about, but performance is going to be a very, very key driver. So it's very clear that how HR as a function drives those conversations across businesses is very critical. And when I say performance, of course, I mean a clear rigor in the organization and a very defined frequency, not like once in a year, once in a quarter, but at a very, very frequent level, almost as frequent as a week, where you are really looking and revisiting your performance and how are you moving forward, and how can HR as a function drive that within the organization. The third thing that I see is engagement. The good part about engagement is that it can be easily measured because most organizations have platforms that are able to reach out to employees and get the pulse of the organization. However, it's about once you get the pulse, what do you do about it? And how do you really drive that rigor? I have always believed that engagement is a key to productivity. If your organization is not engaged enough, it doesn't drive enough productivity, because engagement is also an aspect that's impacted by many, many factors in the organization. So if you keep your eye on engagement as an HR function, you are definitely driving both performance and productivity for your organization. So I would say, as HR professionals, especially if your organization is truly focused towards growth and profitability, you keep an eye on these three aspects. You will be able to have the right pulse. You will be able to drive the right behaviors and also drive the right initiatives in your organization.
Right, and you couldn't have summarized it better, Anjali. I think one of the clear even takeaways for us, and personally for me also, having experienced organizations in their various stages of HR transformation journey. Whenever we talk about rapid growth, it actually exposes critical aspects or critical challenges, especially around what you highlighted, culture, which even within our report, it came out as something, as an inability for many CXOs to be able to be ready to align aspects of culture, align aspects of performance, align aspects of engagement, to this rapid growth that's happening. Absolutely bang on in terms of what we've also heard many organizations today also identifying as some of these challenges. And it will be really interesting to hear what are some of your strategies that you are employing to actually enable this shift, and to look at ensuring that aspect that you talked about, culture, performance, engagement, is something that is being tracked, being measured, and aligned with what across levels are the expectations from your stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I always believe, and I think that's also there in the way we kind of work around with our business leaders, is that it's not work of HR function alone, right? Many things, especially driving culture. While of course we believe that HR is the custodian of the culture, we also believe that HR drives that culture through people, through leaders, through our hiring managers, line managers, as we call it. So it's about really getting the buy-in of the business when you start really working on the culture piece as an organization. First of all, culture has to be in alignment with your business strategy, because that's what defines you. What you are as an organization going to really achieve is something what your culture then kind of becomes. And if your business strategy is X, then your culture has to align to X. Like, say, if we are really focused on growth, then my culture has to be a culture which rewards agility. It should be a culture that rewards behaviors where I'm excelling, I'm outperforming as an individual. But on the contrary, if you are rewarding instead of meritocracy, mediocrity as an organization, then you cannot expect people to have those behaviors at work. So first of all, once you know the business strategy, sit with your leaders and agree upon that, yes, this is what we need as an organization. This is the culture that we are going to drive. Some aspects of culture are universal and some are key to your organization. Universal aspects are trust. I'm sure we talk to anybody out there will say, yes, I would like to be in an environment where there is trust, where somebody has my back. I'm in a psychologically safe workplace. So I think these are universal things, whereas there are some which are very key to your organization in terms of what are you looking at. You are a fast-paced organization into really highly evolving technology. Your culture might be very different than someone who's into manufacturing and probably has a very different set of expectations out of their business. So I think sitting with your business leaders, discussing and agreeing upon, then the buy-in is at the highest level. And that's something I believe in and I drive with my business leaders, because to me, you cannot drive anything as an HR function without really having a partnership with your leaders. So it's about how do you translate that for the business. And have always seen that many times HR leaders struggle around the translation piece. It's always good to have your vision, it's always good to have your ambitions, but when it comes to how will you tell business why they should be doing it, is where we struggle and we fail, because business understands its language. It doesn't understand your functional language. It needs to understand what you mean by what you're saying. So then the second aspect is how you translate it for business so that business understands that yes, it is very important. Like for instance, I'll give an example of when the whole world was moving towards frequent conversations around performance, and people said, let's go away from normalization and bell curve and everything. At that point, we introduced something called great conversations, and it's about really having constant conversations with your people around performance, their aspirations, their goals, and their development areas, etc. But initially, business was like, why should I do that? It's a waste of my time. You're making me talk to the same person 4 times a year, and it's not really something I would like to do. Then we started working with a couple of businesses, ran some pilots, and showed difference to business, saying that units which are doing this frequently are also performing well. There is a better retention, there is clear engagement. So I think it clearly makes sense for you to also follow, and that's when business follows, because then everybody is like, okay, why should I lack that? I should also be doing that and progressing. So those are the ways I would say, in terms of starting to work on culture. I think on the other aspect that I spoke about, performance and engagement, and I mean, in terms of initiatives that we've driven is, performance is not a one time conversation. We all agree now, in a fast moving world. So, how do you create platforms to keep doing that so that everybody is moving in the right direction? So, we always make efforts to bring the entire organization together when it comes to strategy. People should know what you are driving as a leader. So, how do you create those platforms? So, we have compasses, we call them as compass meetings, so that everybody is moving in the same direction and in the right direction. So it's about bringing people together. So today, nobody in the organization can say, hey, I do not know where this organization is going or what it is trying to do. So that's something we've driven very, very well within the organization, really kind of focusing people around the organizational goals, which are there.
Mhm.
And engagement is another piece. Of course, the whole HR fraternity speaks about it, but many people struggle because they feel their leaders are not interested. They do not want to drive these things. We've been able to create a model where my leaders take equal interest in driving engagement, because it's top driven. So it's about influencing your CEO, your MD, to ensure that they also understand the importance of it. And our leaders connect, our leaders respond to comments. I can proudly say that I always have 90% participation on my surveys. I never had to go back complaining why nobody is writing, why nobody is saying something. So which also gives me a very good pulse of the organization. And the other aspect of engagement is not just listening to your people, but doing something about it. So if they don't see any action coming out of these things, they don't believe in you. And how do you create that engagement culture, I think, is something that we've driven as an organization, and it has worked wonders in terms of really rallying my employees across with the organization as well. So I would say these are some of the key that I can recollect, which I think stand out. Of course, there are many practices and things that we do, and many people also do those, but I think especially, how do you rally your business around HR as a function? How do you ensure that you translate, and how do you ensure that your leaders are equally partner in this entire journey, I think, is what really differentiates you as a function, and you can drive better results as an HR function.
Absolutely. It's so good to be hearing all of these insights, strategies that you've implemented. And very interestingly, you spoke about not work of HR alone, and how HR is really pushing business to be able to contribute. And this is also what we see, right? Many organizations have been at the forefront in solving organization-wide issues through HR transformation. Many of these have actually yielded suboptimal results because they've in the past been focused around decreasing cost, raising efficiency, which is more inward looking. And one of our insights in the report talks about nearly 60% of these talent leaders, now talking about experience and now talking about empowering leaders and managers from their top expectations, exactly to what you mentioned, right? And being just inward looking is not enough. And as you said, how are we translating that to the business becomes really important. um, and from a lens of employees, because they would always struggle to adopt this change. And how are we equipped to sort of meet and address to some of those expectations become really important. So, thank you for that. And that brings to my next question is really how has been the evolution of your priorities in your transformation journey? What has been some of the core drivers for you to be able to see this change through, especially if you look at your context, pre-COVID and post-COVID, suddenly this entire great resignation coming into picture, which of course has contributed to your specific industry. We just want to understand how has been your priorities through this entire journey, and how has the transformation evolved within Randstad.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, Anisha. I think my focus as an HR professional has always been on employee experience. And I believe in that because I look at my employees as the organization would look at its customer. At the end of the day, they are my biggest stakeholders. They are my biggest customers out there. And if I am able to drive the right experience, I believe I will get the right results at the end of it. Again, the question is that how is your experience linked to what at the end of the day as a business you are driving? I think that's a critical aspect as well. But keeping my eyes on employee experience has ensured that when employees are feeling productive, feeling engaged, it has driven results for the business as well. So when I say employee experience, what do I mean? There are many aspects. It's like every touch point that I have in the organization, what experience my employee is getting out of it, whether it is a technology platform that I have provided to them, or whether it's a process or a initiative, or it's a policy that I have created, how my employee is experiencing it today. Because the moment our focus went into that and I got closer to my employee, I also began to understand what matters, and then you begin to design things in the organization that matters, and then the results follow. Has been my philosophy all along. And employee experience is also a evolving space. It keeps changing. It's not that what people liked 5 years back does isn't the situation today. So how do you also evolve as a function alongside with that? So pre-COVID, our focus areas were completely different. We were, I think in 2019, we were very focused on growth and really looking at how 2020 can be a game-changing year. And then came the pandemic, and the entire focus changed. During the pandemic, employees' expectations were more like, how can you be an organization that can give me stability, give me help me around mental well-being, because people were locked up and they were having so many challenges working from home, etc. So it's like you of course focus at the situation at hand, and then keep an eye on the long term as well. Long term, I always believe that we are turning to be digital, and it's very important as an HR function. How are you also embracing that journey, and not just kind of because when your business is doing things for clients, your employees also expect things internally. And then of course food ordering platforms and all of this instant gratification has added to employees' expectations also. I mean, taking an example from Digi Yatra, one of my employee commented that why can't my attendance be like Digi Yatra? You just look at my face as I enter into the office and my attendance
Yeah.
is done for the day. Why should I go do any click anywhere? So expectations are now becoming of that level. And how do you match that? As a HR function is extremely key. So are you keeping an eye on how your employee is evolving, how his thought process or her thought process is, and what matters to them? So I also believe a lot in personalization, because I always believe that it's not about just giving one solution to all, but there are things that matter to different people differently. To some, flexibility is the key breaker or maker in the organization. For some, it's compensation. For some, it's about the brand reputation, the job that they do, the content that they work upon. So how do you ensure that you are able to touch your employees with the expectations that we have? So I think personalization has been another a key aspect in my mind, which I also see sort of being our focus. And that's again related to employee experience, because the moment you focus personalization or hyper personalization, kind of becomes a part and parcel of the way you service your employees as well. So that's what I would say has been the key differentiator, and something that I have found as a a foundation for us as a function, and which helps us somehow always being able to deal with disruptions coming in this space as well.
No, no, absolutely. And I think, this has also been one of the key shifts that we've seen as part of, our study, and what we noted that, many organizations today, and I'm sure in your organizations you also mentioned about, different levels, and hence, leading to different generations of workforce that may exist, and really being closer to them, to sort of, have an approach which is more personalized, which addresses what really matters to them in terms of, key moments within their journey. And it will be, really good to understand from you, that, as you get closer to the customer, what has been the approach like? Are you looking at it more in terms of smaller cohorts to be able to personalize this experience? And also, what has been the approach to listening, because this requires a very deep listening to the end customers, and understanding what they really want.
Yeah. So I think maybe I'll start with the approach to listening first, and then I can go on to the next bit. Approach to listening is as simple that, I always believe as a function, HR should always have its ears to the ground. Unfortunately, sometimes we get too far away from the realities of the organization, and it becomes more like our feeder of information is largely the hiring manager, the line manager, or someone who's up in the hierarchy, but not necessarily people who are at the ground level experiencing things and actually your hands and legs in the organization. So first is about how do you set that up and how frequently you do that, because listening once and then kind of forgetting about it is not going to help you. So having very frequent listening that you do. So it's also about crafting platforms, right? One is, of course, as I said, one is your own engagement platform that you have, where you constantly keep hearing from what people have to, listening to what people have to say. The other aspect is creating channels, like having conversation, just getting onto the field, talking to people, knowing a little bit more about their business, what are they doing, what are the things that they are experiencing at the front end level, also helps you in kind of coming back and thinking about what matters to people at the end of the day, what will help them in doing their job better. I think that is what should be the key for you as an HR function. How can you make that, how can you ease things for your employees? How can you make that experience better? Because I am a strong believer that if I'm having a great experience, I'm giving a great experience. Else, I'm not doing that. I'm somewhere always thinking, okay, I give a great experience to my customer, but I get none. And I think that does affect employees at that level. In terms of, I think you had another question about the cohort, and in terms of how do you really reach out to the people. Is that the question, Anish? Or otherwise, I'll probably need a little
Yeah, yeah.
clarification.
Yeah, absolutely. And because you talked about personalization, I wanted
Hmm.
to understand, to what extent are you, going to personalize experience? Have you created more like generational cohorts, or is it even going deeper? So that's the approach I was attuning to.
Okay, thank you. So I think in terms of personalization, one, I feel technology plays a huge role in personalization, because it is not possible for us to touch every employee, manually in terms of what we are doing and our initiatives, etc. And why I say technology is, like, simple example to take is career aspirations. We all know that career plays a very, very important role in an employee's world today, and that's also because they want to stay relevant in the world. And we know how fast we are evolving, and employees know that they carry a risk of redundancy if you don't do that. Now, why I said technology is because technology gives you the platform to make to one, listen to what they aspire to do. Like, for instance, if you have your career portal open for your employee, and they go and put their, what's their qualification, what's the latest training they have completed, what are their aspirations, what they would like to do in the next 1 to 2 years. When you have that information, and then you can actually look at what's the fit for them, and where can they fit well. For instance, because I have now the information of the entire business in terms of roles that the businesses are looking for, I also have the aspirations of my employee. It's about matching the two, and systems can throw today what the match looks like, and then you can actually go on and have career conversations with people basis the data that's flowing at your end. Otherwise you are shooting in the dark when you don't know what exactly people are aspiring for, what they want to do, and you also don't have a complete picture of what's available in your organization or how your business is moving. So therefore, I feel talent management, career pathing, career stream architecture are elements where technology can play a very, very key role for us to really drive that experience. So one, I look at technology as big aspect to do that. The second is, as you rightly said, right, the different generations that are at play at work today. It's always important to bring them together to hear them out in terms of their expectations. What probably a Gen Z experiences or wants versus a Gen X or a Gen Y are very, very different expectations from work. And so we did that something like this for our policies, where we felt that our policies probably were good only for very senior folks, and a lot of our young people joining our workforce were not really feeling why a certain policy has been designed and why it doesn't have this or that. So we brought them all together and we said that, okay, you come and you give us the feedback, you design the policy and you tell us how would you love to design it. And I think giving them that opportunity, one, they in some cases they realize the challenges, and in another cases they gave us good solutions. So I think we benefited and they also benefited, that there are genuinely certain challenges in trying to do certain things from an organization point of view. So I think organize, while we did it for policies, I would love to do it for many other things as well, because
Mhm.
it does give you great ideas. And I believe that HR as a function alone doesn't have all the best ideas. It's always about getting your business involved as you design some of these things. So we drive a lot of best practices, and in those, I always try to bring my business to give me inputs in terms of what works, what doesn't. Then we have a concept of employee resource group. All of my employee resource groups, the six of them, are all run by businesses. They run it, they build a community, they drive initiatives, and I somehow feel it's more successful. I can't imagine that if I was making all my HR leaders be the ERG leads, it would have been looked upon as something which HR is driving, and it not very attractive for a lot of people, because we all know what it goes like in organization. Oh, HR is driving it,
Absolutely.
and it's not really interesting or exciting. But when business drives it, is when people start thinking of it as exciting. So yes, I absolutely buy the idea of cohort, and how as many as we can drive in the organization in different forms and formats is the best possible way to go forward.
Great, great. And it's actually so good hearing, what strategies you have deployed, and I think, kudos to you to be able to, achieve that within your organization. And clearly, two key takeaways for me here. One, you spoke about, very importantly, is the getting business involved into design. I think that is where many organizations are actually, struggling to again keep this more inward looking within HR, having to realize that all of this really matters to your end customers. And also the second bit is around what you mentioned as technology playing a clear enabler to one getting to listen to your customers, and also to be able to string all of this experience together. So wanting to understand from an HR technology point of view, how has been your journey within Randstad? What are some of the strategies that you've employed when it comes to HR technology?
I was very intently listening to you when you spoke about some of the things that you see in the technology space sort of moving in. One thing that resonates with me very, very well is one platform for everything. I remember a few years back, I mean, before the pandemic hit us, many organizations used to come and reach out saying, I have a beautiful engagement platform. Somebody would say, I have a great reward platform, and then you have your HRISs that are there anyway. And I used to wonder, from a user perspective, having a learning management system separate, having a reward system separate, it's too much hassle, and that
Absolutely.
poor employee has to go and click on so many places to get one thing done. So I am a big believer of consolidating, and I'm a big believer that there should be one platform for an employee so that he or she, one, uses the maximum features that are available of that platform, because that's utilization for us as well of the platform. And second, has ease. Doesn't have to go look for multiple platforms out there and worry over what they need to do where. So I believe in that, and I have been driving that in the organization as well. Now, where even if platforms which are like driven by finance or driven by corporate services, which probably are not HR driven, I've always ensured that somehow I have a quick link of that in my HRIS so that people don't have to search for those things. They know that everything that matters from a technology platform, even if it can't be integrated, is somewhere lying there as a quick link for you. But from an HR perspective, I believe that everything should just be on one platform. An employee should not go and look out for things otherwise. So that's why one of the feedback I always sort of give to my partners is how quickly can they also evolve, because if we want to give that experience, then they also need to quickly understand how HR is evolving as a function, how are we driving experience for our employees, and what matters to us. I think so. Once one of the thing is how often do you have dialogues with your partners as well. It's not that once you've got the HRIS, you've just forgotten about it, and you'll take your decision 3 years later whether to renew or not to renew. I think it shouldn't be that. It should be a very conversational partnership here between HR as a function and the providers as well, to see how are they evolving in their journey, what their roadmap is looking like from an employee experience point of view. So that's one. I think really having technology in HR as a function has really made us data rich, which was a challenge, a few years back. I think really driving data-driven HR is still a challenge for many, many organizations, because it's still coming into the culture of the function and how we drive decisions as such. But I think data-driven culture can only be driven through usage of technology. You can no way possibly manage things on Excel sheets and other such features that are available, but rather on one system, one platform, and also connecting the dots. I think technology today enables you to connect the dots. Like if your attrition to engagement to performance, everything is on one platform. You can actually see data, how things are being driven in the organization, how each is linked to the other, and what is driving the other. So that's the other aspect I look at. So for me, key modules are talent module, because of course for me, key is career pathing. I'm always interested in seeing how do we really show career to our people, how are we able to collect more information from our employees so that I can make better decisions as I move forward in the future. So talent is a very critical module. Performance is a very critical module for me. It's also about reward as a module. I am a big believer in gamification of things. I feel when you gamify things, it gets exciting for people. So that's the other piece that I really kind of feel that, recognition rewards can be more gamified so that people can really enjoy the entire experience and see them moving forward, and how are they doing well, and how, and also incentives and bonuses. We are as an organization very, very bonus driven, very incentive driven organization. So it's always good for me to look at, okay, I calculate my incentives for the whole year, and then I look at what my performance should be for that, and then kind of playing along with that as well. So I think these are some things which I feel drives better experience in my organization as I see things. So some things that I really look forward to, and I also would look forward to what evolution is coming in these spaces specifically.
David, absolutely, and really, and one clear insight to what you mentioned. Specifically, I'm going to talk about aspects around data-driven HR, because while many organizations, and this is also what we noted in our study, that while many organizations are talking about AI and are talking about all of the stuff that technology can do, nearly one third are still struggling with getting the foundational right. And I think that is where data and how you're able to bring data together and to be able to make better decisions is really, once you have that foundation in place, you can actually then build on, aspects around analytics and predictions and, around that. But and interestingly, I'm also conscious of time, so just one last question from my end, Anjali, is you spoke about, the better decision making, and I think that's becomes very critical for managers, leaders, especially to be able to, navigate around talent management and related, aspects. So within Randstad, how have the managers actually, adopted this to be able, for them to take these decisions? What has been the adoption like, and how have they started to use technology more, within Randstad?
Yes, we've come a long way on this journey. I mean, we used to be a highly Excel sheet driven organization, which was constantly and which also meant that we were overworking to collect data and keep, and that's again a huge amount of work. We don't realize how much time our people
Absolutely.
spend
Yeah,
in
true.
collecting the data as such. And I wouldn't say that we've reached that stage where I say that, okay, everything is done and dusted and it's all looking beautiful. It's been a journey, and it's a journey which is still continuing within the organization. But what we have been able to do here is, without really mandating things, more working from a why perspective. That why is this so important for us to do? Because the moment we mandate, then I also hear a lot of things like, okay, this system is not good, it has these features are not there, that's not there, or it doesn't help me, and many challenges people will come with. But when you establish the why, that for instance, one of the systems, when we had the applicant tracking system, and it's a very important system for us as an organization, because we are driving and we have so many candidates and talent information in our system. Recruiters used to be like, no, it's not easy, it's I have to do so many things, and how can I find out time every week to upload information and things. So we, one side, we constantly focused on how can I automate as much as possible, so that they don't have to key in information as much. So it's about system could pick things and information from emails and from content which is there, like simple things like resumes. No matter, even if you are searching, it just picks it up and pushes it to your database. So it requires a lot of push and pull, both from our end, and being very firm as a leadership, as an organization, that yes, this is what we want to drive. And then also ensuring that on the other side, you're constantly working on ensuring that their experience is better on the platform. Then it becomes a proper journey. So that's been our case. Like, we've always looked at explaining the why, constantly improvising on the system as well, alongside with our service providers, so that it is making it their lives easier. And then also showing them today, I can confidently go out and say, speak about a lot of data with respect to talent information that I have at my end, which we could not give few years back. Where we would struggle to know industry wise what kind of placements are we doing, what kind of profiles we have in our database, etc. So that's been one. And we've also become more and more like, this is the only way. So we have linked incentives to this, which means that if you are not on the system, whether it is your CRM or whether it is your QMS or whether it is your ATS, if you are not there and your things are not, information is not coming from the system, then you lose your incentives. So it has, in a way, it's a carrot and a stick approach has also worked for
Yeah,
us.
correct.
You get money only when you things are coming to me from the system, because manually I have no way to really go and verify how much business have you closed and what have you done, etc. So I think, and it's an ongoing thing. We are continuing to keep doing this so that it becomes like the behavior. And we do want to go to a world where our data is absolutely clean data. I think that's the other journey that we have as an organization, because we always talk about garbage in, garbage out, right? There's a lot of garbage information that
Yeah,
comes in.
yeah.
How do you make quality insight out of that? Is something that's a journey for us as an organization. So it's about cleaning the data, and helping with adoption, utilization, return on the systems that we have in the organization.
Great, great. So, this has been really helpful, Anjali, and it's been great listening to you. Thank you so much for, sharing your insights. Look forward to many conversations like this in future.
Same
I'll
here.
hand it back to you, Pallavi.
Well, thank you so much, Anish, and thank you so much, Anjali, for sharing all those insights and keeping the conversation really interesting. Thank you for this episode. And for those of you who joined in today, tuned in for this conversation, a big thanks to you. And if you haven't really got the copy of the HR Evolution Perspectives 2023 Empower and Evolve Edition, then this is your chance to get it. You can just click on the link provided below this interview and download the copy now. If you want to have more details on how to automate day-to-day HR processes, steps to simplify human interactions, and getting actionable insights to build better workplaces, you can also visit www.dubbinbox.com. That's all in today's episode. Stay tuned as HR Evolution Perspectives 2023 Experts Take brings you another insight-filled discussion where we break down the important talent trends across India and APAC and deliberate solutions with the top talent leaders in the region. Thank you so much and have a good day.